So here's what it's going to look like. This is actually a really simple one, to be very honest with you. So they're going to get longer than this, but this is the overall problem setup here. Is that for some proposition, which by the way is going to have multiple connectives in it, multiple symbols in it, multiple negations, well, maybe negations, but it's going to have a lot of different things that are in there. You're trying to show that that equation is going to end up to be a value that you know is a conclusion, hopefully at the end of it, solving everything. So you're going to translate into your propositional logic. So you have a premise, and then you have your conclusion. That's what you're aiming for. And this is where the real hard part starts, and that is constructing the valid arguments to get down to that you know Q is going to be equal to true, and that's why I have all of these is equivalent to true here, using the different items that we have and rules that we've done before. Now, by the way, I want to make sure this is perfectly clear. Yes, this one happens to be using all the inference rules, but there might be some other ones that use equivalence rules or something of that nature. So this is fair game, and you're gonna see a bunch of different rules that you've seen before, and then yeah, there's gonna be some new ones as well on how to do this. There's going to be several types of problems or forms of the problems that you're going to be given. Some are the propositional, which is the one I just showed you. There can be word problems, and then there's going to be a hypothetical problem. So those are three that you're really going to get. Support-wise, you got to make sure that you have your equivalence, your logical equivalence, and your inference rules printed out. You're going to see me have the tables up here. Matter of fact, I'm going to disappear. The table's going to appear. And I'm going to go through. How did I pick these steps? How did I know which one to go? And then go from there. I'm hoping that you're going to learn some steps and some items from me on how to look at those charts to find the match. And again, trying to get down to where exactly our values are on this. Speaking about that and our support, you know, the symbols, the conjunction, the negation, they all might give away what is to be next. Because again, your overall goal in the back of your head, you got to keep your overall goal is, hey, what's Q going to do for here? Okay? Have everything printed and ready to go. Before I move on from this table, there's another thing that's on here as well, is that you'll notice that I'm identifying not just the rule that I'm using, but I'm also telling you what line from this overall set of valid arguments am I using to, well, frankly, manipulate my output for this. So notice in the last line here, I used modus ponens using lines 2 and 3. So these two must use modus ponens in order to get some type of output that's Q. And well, that's popping up right now, and I'll be darned. Those two items that are in, doesn't have to be line 1 and line 2 in the table, but those two lines match up with these two lines that I've got right here in order to get my modus ponens, and there's the Q that comes out of that because it was a part of the equation already. So notice how the table is setting that up for, well, how we're going to use our tables. Sorry, I should say this table is going to set up how we're using inference tables, our equivalents, and everything else like that. Planning for this. To be honest with you, as I'm doing my research into this and trying to guide all of you, there were some plans that were out there, but frankly, none of them were like, man, oh, that's a great one. To be honest with you, I wouldn't say I struggled through some of this, but there wasn't, for me, every one of the answers that you're going to see here, the examples, you know, there's a straight path right to the answer. I was usually close. Maybe I had one or two tangents that I went down that I didn't really need. But overall, I got to the point. So again, as long as you have the goal in mind, you'll find your own strategy. Using that table that I'm showing you on the previous page, it's really important to use to strategize it. I'm also going to be requiring it for your, frankly, your work and your homeworks and your tests and other items like that. You got to prove the work, show the work. Another part is just breathe. I know that there was times when I was doing it and reviewing it and still thinking, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right, let me back up. Just breathe, it'll take some time to get this done. That's why we have, you know, only a few problems when it comes to homeworks and stuff like that, because it takes a while. The other parts of strategies that kind of worked with me is always keep an eye on the prize, especially the conclusion. Now, one of the things that I personally did was actually do a bottleneck identification here that's popping up here. And what I did was I kind of mapped out which variables are linked to other variables, and then figured out which ones, well, number one, I need to get to, number one, and number two, were the ones that didn't have much to it. Like in this one is S. The S was really tough to get to, only really had one variable that kind of was even linked to it. So if you can realize that, you might be able to manipulate some of the tables, or sorry, the inference rules, in order to get to that S. So you might want to map that out. It's just a strategy that I had that worked for me, but still. Using conjunctions is going to be very popular. Modus ponens is going to be very popular. These are other items that you're going to notice in the examples that I give you. Use the examples to your benefit. I'll just say that's another strategy. So, but I'll leave it at that for now.